Hey guys, once again, this is the third attempt to do the video on the TV show, the Netflix TV show Messiah. Um, I tried to do it earlier, it didn't post, and then I did it just a couple minutes ago, and I had some interruptions, so I had to cut it short. But again, uh, this show is brand new. It's a hypothetical show. It imagines how people would react and how the world would take it if the Messiah appeared in the 21st century. The references are brand new on this show. For example, they talk about um, the assassination of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, which just happened a couple months ago, and you know, yeah. Okay, this show starts off in the middle of the Syrian civil war, the insurgency against Hafiz al-Assad, and basically, um, it starts off about these two brothers. One is Samir, and the other is Jabril, and they witnessed their mother die at the hands of Daesh, ISIS, that are the rebel group against Assad invading Damascus. And during this time, a mysterious man appears, preaching a sermon and blowing a windstorm and defeating Daesh. Now, everyone is like, oh, who's this guy who defeated Daesh? Who's this guy? Who's this guy? So these two brothers, along with a lot of other followers, began to follow this man in the desert. And he takes a particularly special liking to the younger brother, Samir, who, when he's up there praying on a mountain, Samir comes to him and he has a discussion. He tells Samir, is he ready for the challenges ahead? One of the challenges ahead, as they continue going on, is they're going to the Israeli border. And as he's going along the Syrian-Israeli border in the north, he's picking up various Palestinians from the Golan Heights. Now, Palestinians from the territories, like I said, they're not allowed to come back into they're not allowed to come back into the state of Israel. They're barred from there since 1948. They're going to other various Arab countries. Some of them are going to Western countries, but they're not allowed in back there. And he Al-Masih pretty much knows that and has full knowledge of it, but doesn't care. And they're ready to go in there, guns blazing, particularly this one Imam, Mullah Omar. He's ready to start a next jihad and lead the forces into Israel and to take them over. But the leader, Al-Masih, he has other plans. He tells them to drop their guns, and he basically gets them in peacefully. First, he's captured. And when he's captured, that's when we're introduced to yet another very interesting character. And the other very interesting character that we're introduced to is Avram. Avram is a member of Mossad, Israel's secret service. Actually, he's a member of Shin Bet, a more extreme version of Mossad, the one that's featured in the TV show Fauda on Netflix, another Israeli TV show. And he basically captures Al-Masih and he interrogates him. He says, well, what's your mission? Who do you work for? Do you work for a Shia group like Hezbollah, which is very prominent in Lebanon, with the help of Iran? You have, what's your angle? And he basically gets into Abraham's head, and he tells him, do you remember that time you murdered that kid in Megiddo? And Abraham can't believe that this guy could know so much about his life. He's like, how do you know my life like this? He knows about his failed marriage and his rocky relationship with his ex-wife who cheated on him with another man. And basically, at this point, although coming from an Orthodox Jewish background, Abraham is Avi for short. He's an atheist. He doesn't really believe in God. And a later scene with Samir, uh, in which he tries to interrogate Samir to find out who Al Masih is, reveals that he doesn't believe in God. Because as Samir is talking about God, he pours water on the ground and says, "Your God doesn't exist." And so he has Samir in the hole. I mean, excuse me, and he has Al Masih in the hole. And Al Masih escapes. Now, while the Israeli intelligence is tracking him, the American intelligence is also tracking him. And the American intelligence is represented by um, this woman named Eva Gelner. She is a Jewish American woman who is caring for her elderly Alzheimer's ridden father, who was also a member of the CIA. Uh, and she is trying to get pregnant from her ex husband's frozen sperm, who died recently. And she also had many miscarriages. But when she discovers the information about Al Masih, she also tries to figure out what's his angle. So she goes to Israel and she has meetings with Abraham and Israeli intelligence. And then we kind of see the tension that although they're allies in the same fight, tension between the Israeli intelligence community and the American intelligence community, because basically the Israelis had this guy Al Masih in their grasp and they allowed him to escape. So uh, they're getting blamed for that. And some people are saying that it was a miraculous thing. Then he shows up on Temple Mount, gives a sermon talking about that it's time for peace to be declared between Israelis and Palestinians. Now, people that know Israeli history know that in 2000, when Ariel Sharon, the Israeli former Israeli prime minister, appeared on the Temple Mount, it caused the Second Intifada. The Temple Mount is heavily guarded. But here he is right in front of the Temple Mount giving his speech. And the Israelis that are tracking him down looking for him shoot out a shot in the air. And it hits this one little boy. And Al Masih proceeds to heal this boy. And it goes viral around the world. And one of the people who sees this is another important character in the show, Felix Arguello. Felix is a pastor at a struggling church in Texas, and he's also having marital problems because, unbeknownst to him, his wife is a drunk, and his daughter, despite him being virulently anti-abortion, she she had an abortion and she's been sleeping around. There's this one scene where he forces her to check her pockets, and he's been struggling financially too because the church isn't generating any money, and they may have to shut it down. And really, he's like he's having a crisis of faith because he doesn't believe that God is on his side anymore. He doesn't want to really ask for a handout from his father-in-law, who's this mega church leader, because if he does, then he'll admit that that's him failing. So comes up with the idea that he'll burn the church down and collect the insurance. Well, he sees the incident with Al Masih in Jerusalem with the boy that many people consider to be miraculous, even Ava is blown away by it. She's like, "Oh my God, something like this could happen." She's very, her faith is very jaded as well. She's kind of like Avi in that way. She doesn't really believe either. They both have seen and done a lot of things in their job that makes them not really care about spiritual things. So when they both see this kind of miraculous stuff from Masih, they're not drawn to it in the same way that Felix and Samir are. Felix and Jabril are, and later Felix's daughter Rebecca. Well, she's kind of jaded too, but you'll see later on in the story she becomes very important um, in in the story. Well, I'm not gonna say the whole thing blow by blow. I want you guys to watch this show, everything that happens. But I will say this show is very powerful, and it'll hit you on so many levels. One thing I do want to mention though is the names. Um, the names in this show, they all have significance. Felix, number one, Felix Aguayo. In Spanish, it means the figs. And figs are very important in biblical symbology. Um, and the word Felix in Latin means happy. Rebecca, of course, is a biblical name. Eve is a biblical name, and then the fact that Ava struggles to have a child is very important. Abraham, who is the father of all the monotheistic faiths, um, uh, sh- sh- um, is struggling with his faith as well, like I said, and struggling with his past, coming to grips with something. Is a very important scene at the end in Al Masih when the plane goes down that he takes Al Masih away from. He finally repents and he is forgiven. So he's sort of like a St. Paul's type when they land in Afghanistan, in the poppy seed field, and Al Masih forgives him. But one of the open-ended questions that's never answered in this show is who is Al Masih? Is Al Masih um, is he the false Messiah? Is he Parnam? They later discovered that he's of Iranian origin, and his his brother and he were trained as magicians, and his name is Parham Goldiri. And it's like once this is found out by several of the characters, Felix included, and Samir, and um, um, Jabril, they kind of feel betrayed. And this other lady whose daughter survived cancer. But yeah, this show is supremely powerful. Please watch this show. Peace.